This video is not about Pewdiepie making racist jokes or neo-Nazi humor. That's a story that's already been told, and it's a story we'll have to come back to at the conclusion of this video. But it's about, I think, the more interesting and serious point that there are links between Pewdiepie and what you can call real right-wing neo-Nazi racist activists. In his coverage of this story, I think that the Progressive Voice skipped over one of the most interesting and damning links between Pewdiepie and the far right, the link from Pewdiepie to Brittany Pettibone, and then from Brittany Pettibone to Martin Sellner. Now, Brittany Pettibone is not 6 degrees of separation removed from Martin Sellner. She's engaged to marry him. He appears on her channel. His racist neo-Nazi message is broadcast on her channel constantly. She presents some apologia and support videos for his career as a politician. And given that they're engaged to be married, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they're probably sleeping together. Brittany Pettibone is indeed in the anti-feminist, hard conservative, Catholic, trad thought category. And yet I never hear her talking about remaining a virgin or remaining celibate until marriage. So wild speculation on my part. But if you were to ask yourself, why does Pewdiepie support Brittany Pettibone? Why does he follow her on Twitter? Why does he watch her YouTube videos? It is not going to be for this type of anti-feminist female solidarity video.
Well, we might have to weed through a few fake female friendships to find the authentic ones. If we're willing to do this, our lives will likely be changed for the better. Not every woman is good, but every woman has the potential to be good. And if we're good women ourselves, we're more than likely to attract other good women or to help struggling women become better.
Earlier, some of you might have been surprised to hear me use the word activist. Here on YouTube, anyone can call themselves an activist, and often enough, it doesn't really connect to any sort of action. Quote, in the summer of 2017, this identitarian group, led by Martin Sellner, raised over 150,000 British pounds. Put that into your local currency, guys. This is a lot of money. 150,000 British pounds through crowdfunding to charter a boat in the Mediterranean to target non-governmental organizations that patrol the sea to rescue migrants in peril. So they wanted to have a boat to sabotage the efforts of other boats at saving people's lives who were in unsafe boats. Good luck dodging a murder charge on that one if it works. If people's lives are at risk at sea and you're intervening, your form of activism is to make their lives more at risk, doesn't take a lot of imagination to see how you could even be judged guilty of piracy. And no, I don't mean making a copy of a Britney Spears CD for your little sister.
I want to be a pirate.
So the acronym GI here indicates that they are using identitarian politics as a placeholder for racism. They claim that their form of white nationalism is not racist, it's merely identitarian. And as you can see, they're making quite a lot of money out of that ploy. Anyway, so his group said it would arrest illegal migrants. Oh, yes. Isn't it great when people who are in no way connected to the police or authorities talk about arresting people? It said it would arrest illegal migrants and sink their boats. You're literally pirates on the high seas. No, you don't have the legal authority to arrest people. That's the police. And you don't have the authority to shoot down and sink vessels on the high seas. That would be the Navy. Yeah, tell it to the judge. Its campaign received the backing of a neo-Nazi website, former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke, and a leading American white supremacist. You don't say. I don't know. You might think that cosplay activists who want to get back to Pirates of the Caribbean would support this. Maybe people who are just pro-murder. I don't know. Of all the forms of activism, this is one of the hardest to defend, and yet, compared to, say, vegan activism, it seems to be remarkably profitable for them to do. All right, it didn't quite go to plan, though. The boat was detained and the captain was arrested, accused of having illegal Sri Lankan refugees on board and false documents. Moving on. A few months later, GI paid for a red helicopter to land on the crisp white snow of the French Alps. Flanked by 100 activists from across Europe, a massive poster was laid out telling migrants to go home. Well, this one at least is nonviolent, but pay attention to the final sentence here. This stunt cost more than 50,000 British pounds. I think that's more than 65,000 US dollars. This is big business. This form of activism, there's a lot of public support for. And yeah, in some ways, we shouldn't be surprised that some people, who are just publicly associated with video games and not politics, like Pewdiepie, are indeed linked to this. So the link from Pewdiepie to Brittany Pettibone, and then from Pettibone to Martin Sellner, let me put it this way. If Pewdiepie was your brother, cousin, uncle, if he was a friend of yours, if he was a coworker of yours, this would be something you should try to talk to about him. I say on this channel all the time, sympathy is an analytical tool. It's hard to have a sympathetic reaction towards someone when they make a neo-Nazi joke. And that is, by the way, what Pewdiepie did. You guys have probably heard this. I don't have to read this out. So I'll just put the text on the screen here. It's certainly hard to respond in a sympathetic way. And yet, if you know people like this face to face, that's exactly what you have to do.
If you had, like, let's say, Rubin, Crowder, Shapiro, Peterson, okay, but why are you following Stefan, an outright white nationalist and a white supremacist, Brittany Pettibone, a white nationalist, Lauren Southern, a white nationalist who was arrested for throwing flares at a migrant boat and had peddled a conspiracy that white Europeans were being replaced by brown people, which led to the radicalization that ended up killing nearly 50 people, 50 Muslim people. So why are you following these people, dude? I don't understand.
The moral to this story, and my conclusion to this video, is not to tell you to unsubscribe from PewDiePie or to go on Twitter and demonstrate your sense of moral superiority over PewDiePie. I think that accomplishes nothing. What I'd like to suggest, in fact, is that whether we're talking about PewDiePie himself or someone you may know in real life, friend, brother, uncle, coworker, if you see these red flags, reach out to somebody. Reach out to them and try to have a positive connection that's going to turn them away from fascism, neo-Nazism, racism, etc. Because who do you think is going to do it? If not you, then who? I remember I had a coworker and he made anti-Semitic comments. And, I was much younger then. I was in my first year of university. It was not easy for me to do. I was not really well-spoken and self-disciplined the way I am now. But I remember, I said to him, look, it's not just because ethnically I'm a Jew that I'm doing this, but nobody else is going to talk to you this way. No one else is going to give you the opportunity to talk this through. But, what are you doing here? Think about what this means and where this is leading you. The joke from PewDiePie, the jokes he made in the past that were racist and even specifically Nazi, they don't necessarily mean that that person making that joke is on the slippery slope towards being a Nazi. But they may be. Sometimes they are. Sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. The type of link that PewDiePie has to Brittany Pettibone and thus to a current ethno-nationalist white supremacist movement in Europe, it may be for research purposes. I mean, you shouldn't jump to the harshest of conclusions. You shouldn't just denounce people, partly because denouncing people doesn't really accomplish anything anyway. I'm vegan. It's definitely possible to get a photograph of me standing in front of a swastika, because here in Taiwan, vegan restaurants have swastikas on the signs. I mean, you can take things out of context and say, oh, wow, here's this picture of this guy. He's a bald white guy standing in front of a vegan restaurant. It doesn't look so good. Well, guess what? In Taiwan, the swastika is used by those restaurants just to indicate that they're devout Buddhists. That symbol was around before Nazism. It's going to continue after. I'm not really endorsing what's called now cancel culture. I think I'm endorsing a reaching out, a sympathetic culture of actually trying to do something positive. And in this case, where there's smoke, there is fire. I don't think PewDiePie is connected to Brittany Pettibone because he's interested in her dating and marriage advice. I don't think he's following these people on Twitter and on YouTube for any other reason. And in this case, it turns out, with the passage of time we've seen, he wasn't making neo-Nazi jokes for no reason at all either. At the very least, when someone makes racist and neo-Nazi jokes, it indicates that they think those jokes would be funny, or that they want to reach out to an audience who would find those jokes funny, who would approve of them. I don't think that the purpose of interacting with other people on the internet or in real life is to take their soul and put it in a balance and decide whether they're good or evil. I just think that's counterproductive. But when you see these signs, when you see these red flags, it's an opportunity for you to reach out and do something positive, and that's a form of activism that won't cost you £50,000. It won't cost you $1. It won't cost you a dime.
I mean, really, people like to disrespect my crew, but the fact is that you know my name and I don't know you.